Blackburn Rovers were Premier League champions in 1994-95, but just 4 short years later they found themselves relegated from the Premier League. We've journeyed back in time courtesy of the mad scientists to change the course of history. And we're here in 98-99, the season Blackburn went down, to not only avoid relegation and rewrite the course of history, but to take it a step further, and we want to regain our Premier League trophy. But not only that, we want to win the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, and the Champions League, and we've only got 5 years to do it. So here we are in charge of Blackburn in 1998 with essentially a decent enough team to start with, but there will be a lot of changes going forward, and we've actually got £10 million to make those changes this season. So let's get into the market. We had to strengthen throughout, so we started with Miroslav Klose, a young prospect who might not be first team ready, but with a couple of loans, who knows? Next up was a transfer for the here and now, focusing on the spine of the team, a marauding box-to-box midfielder, Mark van Bommel, an absolute bargain at £4 million. The bargain hunting continued, and this time we spent £2.5 million on John Carew. Big, quick, strong, and equally comfortable scoring with his head or his feet. He could be an absolute superstar in our team and system. Speaking of superstars, well, need we say more about this guy? He looks decent, bags of potential, and could really propel us to the top of world football. £2 million we spent on Brazilian youngster, Ronaldinho. And then we got creative with some instalments for centre-back Kevin Hoffland and versatile defender Skurla. And that for now concludes our transfer business. We'd like to have spent more, as there are many more positions we could still do with improving, but with no transfer budget remaining and overspending on wages, this will have to do. And this is how we're going to line up, with John Carew and Chris Sutton fantastic at heading and being target forwards. We need to whip those crosses in, and Damien Duff is a natural left-footed, old-fashioned winger. He'll be a key man for us. Then there's Ronaldinho pulling the strings. He'll be the link and the creative force. Mark van Bommel marauding as a box-to-box midfielder, taking the game by the scruff of the neck. And the media expect us to finish 8th, which I hope we can exceed those expectations and sneak into some European football. We started things off with the win against Middlesbrough with some debut goals. Unfortunately, Kevin Hoffland's was in his own net, but his blushes were spared as Carew set up Ronaldinho to lash home before racing clear and getting on the scoresheet himself with a well-composed finish in a comfortable 4-1 win. John Carew continued his promising start with a brace against Chelsea. He then scored again, as did Ronaldinho, in a 4-1 win against Charlton. Back-to-back 3-0 wins against Newcastle, then Coventry, meant we'd won all 5 of our opening games. And with that great form, we found ourselves 4th. We had a big test at home against Manchester United next and got off to a positive start, going ahead through a goal from Chris Sutton. United bounced back with goals from Dwight Yorke and Nicky Butt, leaving them going into the break 2-1 ahead. We did not crumble, however, as we did not only come back into it, but actually went 3-2 up with a brace from John Carew. These goals were either side of a Stefan Henshaw red card as well, and speaking of that red card, United found space in the 86th minute, Dwight Yorke scoring his second and equalising for Man United. And then, heartbreak. In the 91st minute, Dwight Yorke completed his hat-trick. But the drama was not over there. Oh no, in the 97th minute, or Fergie time if you will, we showed great character and resolve as Kevin Gallagher snatched us a well-deserved point, 4-4. That's probably the highest scoring draw of all season. The Europa League draw served us up a very winnable group, and we got our campaign off to a dreadful start against Sturm Graz, going behind after 10 minutes. However, things quickly turned round as we equalised less than a minute later. It was comfortable for there on in, as the victory never looked in doubt. Chris Sutton turning his brace not only into a hat-trick, but 4, whilst John Carew had to slum it with just 2. We returned from the Europa League with a great 3-0 win against Leeds, completely blowing them away by going 3-0 up inside 20 minutes. That form turned somewhat, however, as we lost 2-1 at home to Grasshoppers in the Europa League before throwing points away in the league, first succumbing to a 90th minute equaliser against West Ham before throwing the lead away twice against Leicester in a 2-2 draw. We got back to winning ways with a 3-0 against Sporting before continuing that in the league with a 4-2 win against Spurs. Chris Sutton missing a penalty in both games. We could almost secure qualification with a win in the return game against Sporting, and we were behind within 6 minutes, and they'd already missed a penalty. Damien Duff though then bagged a brace to have us in the driving seat before Sporting equalised in the 87th minute. Luckily, John Carew had other ideas, scoring twice before the end of the game. We won 4-2. But then we dropped more points in the league, this time against Aston Villa, 1-1. Against Southampton, it was Sutton and Carew at it again, both scoring 2 apiece. However, John Carew did have the chance to get his hat-trick with this penalty, but again, another penalty miss. I hope we don't have to rely on penalties in the cup competition. We then secured safe passage from the group in the Europa League before beating current Premier League champions Arsenal. We read a look as they missed a penalty and Patrick Vieira was sent off early. We capitalised and are still unbeaten. And we're in second and genuinely in the conversation. Europe was a goal, and at this point, you've got to think Champions League football? And with 3 wins and a draw in the next 4 games, saw us actually go top of the table. 18 games in, and we're top, unbeaten. Things couldn't be going much better, right? Wrong! The board piped up and said, hey, well done, here's £38 million to spend. Don't mind if I do. Despite Sutton and Carew's scintillating form, they're similar types of players, and I wanted something different, and this is all about redemption and rewriting history. So, I thought, let's give someone a chance who was far better than their Premier League career suggested. Welcome to Blackburn, Andrei Shevchenko, 9.6 million from Dynamo Kiev. We then looked at Kieran Dyer for the versatile wing-back midfield option, but he then chose Arsenal. With one eye on the future, we bought Michael Carrick from West Ham for 3.7 million and Andy O'Brien from Bradford for 1.2 million. Then for the here and now, as well as the future, we bought Belazoglu Emre for £10.5 million. Great current ability, great potential ability. He might rival Shevchenko for signing of the January window. We strengthened our resolve at left back / left midfield with the signing of Kobiashvili for 4.2 million. And we had a little left to spend, so we looked at Juan Reynoso. At 29, he's very much one for now, not the future, but 1.4 million, good ability, and a model citizen. He'll be a great mentor to some of our young players. And that then concluded the January transfer business. Back to the action on the pitch. In the Coca-Cola Cup, we dispatched of Wolves comfortably 5-1. Ronaldinho and Carew both had 2 goals, and when chasing the hat-trick, it was Ronaldinho who won that race, scoring a header. We then beat Southampton 2-0 in the FA Cup before crashing out of the Coca-Cola Cup to United. It was an absolute shit show in the opening 10 minutes, 2 goals for Andy Cole, then a red card for Perez. We restored some pride by it finishing 4-2, but we were too slow at the blocks. After the disappointing Coca-Cola Cup result, we bounced back against Liverpool, Emre scoring inside of a minute. Unfortunately though, this is as good as it got, as Liverpool came back into the game and took complete control and ultimately ran out 4-1 winners. The biggest kick in the balls was the 92nd minute injury to Damien Duff. Just a broken leg and out for the rest of the season then. The form continued to disappoint as we let a 1-0 lead slip against Villa, conceding a late goal. However, then we were the beneficiaries of a late goal against West Ham, Emre rescuing a point in stoppage time. This had us drop to 4th after 21 games, but, you know, we are still in the mix. We're 2 points off the top as Arsenal, Aston Villa and Liverpool are all on 48 points. We're a couple of points clear of United in 5th, so European qualification is definitely still a realistic possibility. We had a 5-star performance in the FA Cup 5th round against Ipswich, a 5-1 win with goals from new boys Shevchenko, Emre and Kobiashvili. We returned to winning ways in the league with a 2-0 win against Leeds and 2 for new cult hero Andrei Shevchenko. We then drew 1-1 with Spurs before John Carew came up with the goods against Leicester, a 3-0 win and a hat-trick for the big man. Despite that win though, previous results have seen us fail to capitalise on other teams around us dropping points, leaving us in 3rd with current leaders Liverpool up next. It feels like a must-win game. If we win, we'll leapfrog them and maybe go top, but they do have a game in hand. And win it we did! Another hat-trick, this time stepping up Chris Sutton. He did once again miss a penalty, but he managed to score the rebound. He had to wait until stoppage time for his hat-trick, controlling the ball on his chest and turning beautifully, taking the defender completely out of the equation before deploying a composed finish into the corner. Then in the following game against Chelsea, Chris Sutton continued his goal-scoring form early on, giving us the lead. Chelsea hit back with a double from Gianfranco Zola. Ronaldinho popped up in the right place at the right time with a beautiful finish to draw things level. And it was an injury time goal once again for Chris Sutton, this time securing the victory for us, a hard-fought 3-2 win. Then it was back-to-back games against Middlesbrough, the first a 2-1 win in the FA Cup, followed by a 6-1 win in the league, Shevchenko scoring 4. This result was doubly impressive as we were down to 10 men after 7 minutes. And this took us top of the league. Liverpool still have that game in hand, but we're top. In the Europa League, we were humbled by Fiorentina losing 3-1 away from home, giving ourselves a lot to do in the return leg. We rested a few players against Forest and drew 0-0 before the home leg against Fiorentina. And we started strong with a goal after 2 minutes, Gary Flitcroft cutting in from the wing and just kept going and going until he fired home. The comeback faltered as Edmundo equalised on quarter of an hour. We had it all to do, and even when Ronaldinho put us back ahead on the night, we were still 4-3 down on the tie. On the stroke of half time though, Ronaldinho popped up again and scored again. Not the best goalkeeping, but we'll take it. We headed into half time level, and for the first time in the tie, we believed. We took the game to them in the second half, and Ronaldinho popped up again, scoring his hat-trick. A star-making performance. Ronaldinho continued his purple patch as he scored after 2 minutes in the FA Cup quarter-final. He got a second late on before Shevchenko sealed the win, 3-0 against Sunderland, and we were in the semi-finals. After the 0-0 with Forest, we managed to keep top spot by winning 2 on the spin, 3-0 against Sheffield Wednesday and 2-0 against Derby County. Liverpool still have that game in hand, but there's daylight between us and the rest of the chasing pack. But we're the masters of our own downfall, and back-to-back draws nerfed our title hopes as we failed to beat Wimbledon, and we were lucky to even get a draw against Everton. David Unsworth missed a penalty. Europa League time, and it was Slavia Prague, and we won 3-1 in the away leg, a very late goal adding extra comfort for the home leg. And, to be honest, we did need that comfort as we spent the majority of the game 1-0 down. But we drew 1-1 and progressed to the semi-final. Speaking of semi-finals, it was the FA Cup against Leeds. In a dramatic game, Harry Kewell gave Leeds the lead. Leeds' lead lasted a couple of minutes before John Carew levelled things up. Emre then gave us the lead, but Leeds came back and cancelled out that lead by drawing level themselves with a goal from Alan Smith. Leeds then retook the lead themselves before we drew level again from the penalty spot in the second half. No more Leeds taking the lead in this game. We won 10-9 on penalties. So we're in the final, and we have to believe after the semi-final drama that it might be written in the stars that we're going to win the FA Cup this season. But from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows, we all but threw the league challenge away as we were decimated 5-0 by Arsenal. We then acted all big and hard in response to that embarrassment as we beat Southampton 5-0. But then this was followed by a 2-0 defeat to Newcastle, so the title was all but gone. It wasn't just the title either, we were now 4th, and whilst it was tight and could swing every which way, we could slip out of the top 4 entirely, especially in this current form. In a drama-free semi-final of the Europa League, we strolled past Fenerbahce 4-0, then 3-0, a second final for us and a trophy cabinet that might need expanding. We beat Charlton 2-0, and with both United and Arsenal dropping points, we find ourselves back in second place. And it's very tight for European qualification, and with fellow European challengers Manchester United up next, it was a huge game in the season. After the 4-4 against United, would this have more goals? We started terribly with some dithering at the back, allowing United to score after 8 minutes. By 10 minutes it was 2-0, and by 12 minutes it was 3. It felt like game over already, and by the time United pinged it around like a training exercise to make it 4, I was already preparing the water bottle for half time. We didn't even make it to half time at 4-0 low, as United piled on the misery, making it 5. A thrown water bottle and a bollocking later, we started the second half. Shevchenko popped up and grabbed a goal, giving us a consolation. Some more pride was restored as Matt Jansen popped up and made it 5-2. By the time Shevchenko was robbed of this strike, calling it a Wes Brown own goal, it was 5-3, and we were in the ascendancy. Matt Jansen popped up again to make it 5-4 with a deft chipped finish, and it was United's turn to faff around at the back, giving it straight to Ronaldinho, who played it through for Shevchenko, who pulled it level. 5-5. The most a game of 2 halves of football I think I've ever seen. And the league games against United this season, aggregate 9-all. And then we finished the league off strong, beating Coventry 4-0, and we finished second behind Liverpool. A very successful first season in the league. Onwards and upwards for next season. But that's not all for today's chapter. Oh no. We had Inter Milan in the Europa League final, and they took the lead through Diego Simeone. Shevchenko popped up in the second half and drew us level. After 90 minutes it was still 1-1. Inter took the initiative in extra time, Sunday Oliseh with the goal, and that's how it finished. Inter win the Europa League. The FA Cup final against Manchester United, and I'm hoping for something less dramatic than the 4-all or 5-5 in the league. And it was less dramatic. It was Andy Cole early on before doubling the lead in the second half. We couldn't get a foothold in the game, and despite Nathan Blake's late goal, it didn't spur us on, and Manchester United won the FA Cup. So season 1 is in the books. Second in the league was a successful campaign, although twinged with disappointment that we were in the mix for so long. We can take positives though that our young stars can kick on and maybe next season mount a title challenge. Also disappointing in the Europa League and FA Cup to get to the final and come so far but ultimately fall short. It's very disappointing. And the board set the budgets of £85 million. So it's going to be an interesting transfer window. After an overachieving yet disappointing nearly season where we came second in the league and lost in the Europa League and FA Cup finals, we had time to contemplate as well as delve into the transfer market to strengthen our already strong and emerging squad. We signed youngster Didier Drogba, not quite ready for the first team, but a loan or two and he might just be Premier League quality. We then strengthened our defence with the signing of left-back Atherson for £4.5 million and Thomas Ufalusi for just £64,000. We tried to add Chris at centre-back as well, but he chose Chelsea as they have a stronger squad. Seems like it then, Chris, yeah? I don't think so. We raided the relegated Everton for Danny Cadamatri, David Unsworth and Michael Ball for a combined total of just over 13 million. And then we spent our loan on German superstar or potential superstar Michael Ballack. Stipe Pleticosa, a young emerging goalkeeper with bags of potential, was bought for just £1 million, and the final signing of the transfer window was rival for Damien Duff on the left-hand side, Leeds United's Harry Kewell. We siphoned plenty of money off into the wage budget and we're still heavily overspending as we wanted to clear off some of the release clauses. We have lots of transfer budget available, but for some reason we just can't shift it around. We also cleared out some of the deadwood and some of the moaners, most notably Stefan Honcho, who wants to become the highest earner at the club. Sorry Stefan, you're not worth it. Shut up and f*** off to City. The season got off to a decent start with a 2-0 win over Middlesbrough, goals for Andrei Shevchenko in the first half and Damien Duff in the second. We then lost 1-0 to Liverpool thanks to a goal from Michael Owen and then drew 1-1 with Chelsea, going ahead from John Carew but being pulled back instantly by Tor Andre Flo. Back to winning ways against Villa in a largely unconvincing 1-0 win, then we had Barcelona in the Champions League where we were humbled 4-1. It was then 3 draws in a row, a 2-2 with Leeds and a 1-1 with Villa in the Coca-Cola Cup, which we snuck the win on penalties, then a 3-3 draw with Norwich. After 6 games, we're down in 9th. Pretty dismal really, although we have only lost 1 game, it's the 3 draws that had us floundering. We have a few new signings bedding in, so here's to hoping we can kickstart getting some more wins. The drawing continued as we drew 0-0 with Parma in the Champions League. Then we scraped another unconvincing 1-0 win against Charlton this time, before we turned on the style of sorts against Ipswich, winning 5-2 with John Carew opening the scoring with a lovely dink finish, Andrei Shevchenko bagging himself a hat-trick, a couple of fabulous goals, sealing the win with a finish with a man full of confidence. Keep up the good form, lads. Oh, for fuck's sake, the Champions League is so hard! Maybe it was ambitious to say we'll win it within 5 years. Back to winning ways against Barnsley, Ronaldinho and John Carew amongst the goal scorers. Then we followed this up with a Coca-Cola Cup win, 3-1 against QPR, a hat-trick for Chris Sutton. And we made it 3 goals in 3 consecutive games as we beat Southampton 3-1. John Carew and Andrei Shevchenko on the score sheet. Chris Sutton actually scored a penalty. But the Champions League turmoil continued as we drew 1-1 with Monaco. And we kept up our high-scoring draws with Manchester United. This time it was 3-3. Not quite the game of 2 halves of the 5-5 last season, but we took the lead through a David Unsworth penalty. The lead lasted less than a minute as United equalised and then proceeded to take the lead with Dwight York. He then got his second 5 minutes after that, making it 3-1, and I thought, here we go again. But we weren't going out without a fight. Ronaldinho just 3 minutes later clawed us back into it. We pulled it back to 3-3 at the start of the second half. Andrei Shevchenko with the goal, and that's how the game finished. 3-3, another high-scoring draw with United. After 11 games, we find ourselves up in 5th, which is admittedly much better than 9th, but still not quite where we want to be. We've started to settle as a squad, and to be honest, looking at it, we're only 3 points off the top, so a single win, in theory, with the results going our way, we could be first. And we got back to winning ways with a 3-1 against Newcastle, then back to the Champions League, and Parma sealed our fate of finishing bottom of the group as they beat us 2-1. After the Champions League heartbreak, we bounced back against Derby with a 2-0 win before we had our final Champions League game, Barcelona. Can we restore some pride? You bet we bloody can. 6-0! 6-0! We waited until we were already confirmed to finish bottom, and then we turned up. In the following game against Arsenal, we went behind early as Emmanuel Petit opened the scoring. We pulled ourselves level with a bit of poor goalkeeping from David Seaman. His generosity continued as his wayward clearance was intercepted and we worked it to John Carew again, and he tapped it home. We continued our good form with a 4-0 win against Sheffield Wednesday, and after 15 games, we're up in 2nd. Still 3 points behind United, but we've cast aside the rest of the chasing pack and we've got United firmly in our sights. The Coca-Cola Cup run continued as we disposed of Spurs 3-1. We went ahead early with a cool finish from Andrei Shevchenko, but Spurs came back into it and went in at half-time level. It took till the 73rd minute and a devilish defence-splitting pass from Shevchenko to put it on a plate for John Carew, who did not disappoint. Carew then repaid the favour for Shevchenko as he played an equally fabulous ball through, and Shevchenko lashed home off the crossbar. We closed out the year with indifferent form, firstly a 2-2 draw against West Ham, then a 3-0 win against Leicester City, before falling to defeat against Wimbledon 2-1. With those results, we lost some ground on United and we've been clawed back into the chasing pack. We're 1 point clear of 4 teams. 4 teams all on the same points. So yeah, it's very tight at the top. Can we keep pace and make up ground on United though, or are they just going to run away with it and it's going to be another nearly season for Blackburn? A busy January started positively with a 3-0 win against Spurs before turning our attention to the Cups. The Coca-Cola Cup semi-final first leg against Norwich ended in a 1-1 draw. We went behind early when Norwich waltzed uninterrupted through our defence, but John Carew kept us in it, tapping home from a Chris Sutton pullback. Before we commenced with the second leg, it was FA Cup time against Leeds, and we went behind again for the second time in 2 games. David Batty with the penalty, making it 1-0 at half-time. Ronaldinho did pull us level at the start of the second half as both teams chased the winner. The game opened up and Matt Jansen found himself in the clear. He delivered a beautifully composed chipped finish to win us the game in the 90th minute. The Coca-Cola Cup semi-final second leg got off to a flyer as Emre fired home, giving us the advantage. 1 foot in the final, but Jason McAteer decided Llewellyn had one too many legs and decided to try and snap one off. Fortunately for Norwich, the referee was having none of it and brandished a red card and probably called the police. Their man advantage came into play almost instantly as Norwich drew level, but super sub John Carew scored twice, 2 headers, rising above everyone, scoring to take us to the final. John Carew, he's bigger than me and you, he'll probably score 1 or 2, John Carew. So good, he's got himself his own song, and we followed this up with a 3-2 win against Ipswich, but then a 2-0 defeat to Charlton, which saw us lose even more ground on United. After 21 games, we are still in second place, but the teams around us have games in hand, and we're at risk of falling out of the top 4. And after the dismal Champions League showing this season, top 4 is the bare minimum, because we simply have to redeem ourselves next season. Speaking of redemption, we then won 4 on the spin, beating Southampton, Barnsley, Wimbledon and Spurs, scoring plenty of goals in the process, but annoyingly, failing to keep a clean sheet. This made it 9 games without a clean sheet in a row. In the past meetings, we've seen lots of goals and draws against United. However, in the 5 games so far, we've failed to register a single victory. Can our fortunes change in the FA Cup today? Quite possibly, as it was us who got off to a flyer, with goals from Chris Sutton and Ronaldinho, giving us a 2-goal lead at the break. Ryan Laudrup pulled one back for United in the second half, but Shevchenko restored our 2-goal lead just 5 minutes later. We looked strong and on course to finally beat United at the 6th time of asking, but Emil and Penza popped up to add some nerves to proceedings. And it was a quick 1-2 punch for United as just 60 seconds later Quintana equalised. We were rocked, but managed to compose ourselves and hold on. But of course, there's last minute drama, and it unfortunately did not go our way. And Penza with the strike, and Pletikosa dived the complete wrong way, leaving us eliminated from the FA Cup once again to United. A dramatic 4-3 defeat. Up next though in the league, it was Liverpool, and it was another high scoring affair. It got started with some piss poor defending which fell favourably for Patrick Berger, who made it 1-0. We then equalised when Harry Kewell's shot was saved but fell to Ronaldinho, who mopped up the rebound. A well-worked Liverpool move was then dispatched by Michael Owen, but then a couple of minutes later Shevchenko bustled straight through the challenge and rifled home, making it 2-2 at half-time. It was then our turn to take the lead for the first time in the game as Shevchenko got his second and our third. We're 3-2 up, and could we show Liverpool how to hold on to a lead? No, we couldn't. It finished 3-3. And in the next game we beat Middlesbrough 2-0, which sent us top of the league because United lost to Newcastle. Despite being top, United do still have a game in hand, as do the rest of the chasing pack. But we're pulling clear in points. Is the tide turning in our favour? Being out of the Champions League and the FA Cup, we really can focus on the league. But before that, we have the final of the Coca-Cola Cup to contend with. And it was Leeds in said final. And it was a first chance at a trophy. This season, we had chances last season and we blew it. But first chance at a trophy. Shh. And it was a relatively drama-free affair as John Carew was the beneficiary of some poor Nigel Martin goalkeeping as he flapped at 2 headers. He not only completed his hat-trick in the second half, but also got his fourth. What a superstar John Carew is. No wonder he's got himself a song. Don't worry, I won't sing it again. High off the win in the Coca-Cola Cup, or on a sugar rush if you will, we followed this up with some great form, beating Leicester, West Ham and Sheffield Wednesday to close out March. We were still in first and recent results had certainly been kind to us. There is daylight between us and United, 4 points, and no game in hand. It's actually in our hands now. 8 games remaining, can we do it? A dominant display against Derby as we ran out 5-0 winners before a difficult couple of games. First up, it was Arsenal and we took the lead through Andrei Shevchenko. He then turned provider, floating a wonderful crossover for John Carew to make it 2. Dennis Bergkamp pulled one back with this cross, shot, cross. Did he mean that? I'm not so sure, but we restored our 2-goal lead when John Carew's shot was saved and Shevchenko tucked away the rebound. Arsenal did score again late on, but it ended 3-2. A good win. Next it was United, and we looked set to break our winless streak against them as we took the lead through John Carew, and then 10 minutes into the second half, Andrei Shevchenko made it 2. 60 seconds later, Andy Cole pegged it back to 2-1, but with quarter of an hour remaining, we had a penalty. And we then got Troy Deeney'd as Manchester United and Schmeichel saved their penalty and proceeded to go straight at the other end and score. It finished 2-2. But a draw doesn't help United because we've both dropped points. They've not closed their gap. It's still 4 points with 5 games left. And we strolled past Newcastle 2-0, but David Unsworth missed another penalty. But this victory was massive. Firstly, United lost to Middlesbrough, which meant our lead was now 7 points with only 4 games to play. And secondly, we've also secured Champions League football for next season. In our current position, with 4 games left, anything other than winning the league would be an absolute catastrophic bottle job. Then things started to fall apart. We were held 1-1 by Aston Villa, but still 7 points clear. Chelsea in second, United and Liverpool further back, but do have a game in hand. This draw adds a few nerves to proceedings, especially as we've got Chelsea next. And speaking of that game against Chelsea, we lost 2-1. And it's United who are looking to backdoor their way to the title again. 5 points behind with a game in hand. 2 games left. It's genuinely anyone's at this point. We then fucked it against Norwich in a 2-2 draw, but Chelsea somehow managed to fuck it harder, losing 2-1 to Middlesbrough. It was also more 90th minute drama as Liverpool beat United 1-0 with a 90th minute goal. This leaves us needing only 1 point on the final day of the season against Leeds to win the title. And it was quite poetic that Leeds old boy Harry Kewell gave us the lead early on. We looked comfortable throughout, and a few minutes into the second half, Shevchenko made it 2, Reynoso made it 3 from the spot, finally someone who can take a penalty. With a quarter of an hour to go, Leeds did pull one back and it could have got a little nervy, but it didn't, thanks to big old John Carew, who characteristically headed home to restore our 3-goal advantage and secure our Premier League title. A fantastic achievement in only our second season in charge. We also managed to tick off the Coca-Cola Cup along the way, with an increase to the wage budget of £600,000 and £55 million in the transfer kitty. There will be definitely signings in the summer. We need to improve our squad to avoid further Champions League embarrassment. Speaking of the Champions League, it was our good friends United who went and won it, beating Bayern no less, a season later than in real life, and not quite in as dramatic a fashion. But then United sacked Fergie 2 days later, so there's that. So overall, a fantastic season with our young and emerging squad, but we did get embarrassed in the Champions League, so we do need to strengthen to avoid that happening again. We weren't as comfortable in the league as I'd like to have been, so yeah, there's retaining the league title, and seems a little side quest, we've got to beat United at some point. Stay tuned. As Premier League champions, but Champions League whipping boys, it was time to strengthen our squad. Or was it? Our young players were starting to come of age, and the likes of John Carew, Andrei Shevchenko and Ronaldinho were kind of looking like superstars. But with that being said, we do have £55 million to spend, so be rude not to, right? Young centre-back prospect Fabrizio Colaccini was brought in to strengthen our resolve at the back. And up next, Pablo Aimar. This guy looks phenomenal. He might even give Ronaldinho a run for his money. And quite the steal at £20 million. But he chose Monaco instead of Blackburn. So, plan B? Joe Cole? Great English prospect, and you know what? Maybe we'll complement our team better. Maybe it's a good thing Pablo Aimar went to Monaco. Oh fucking hell! He stayed at West Ham! We're Premier League champions, lads! Does anyone care? Chelsea decided to work on their stand-up comedy with an offer for Hofland, which we swiftly rejected. Then we strengthened at right back, not once, but twice. First with Anthony Revilliere for 11 million, and then we followed this by signing Jorge Martinez for 12 million, rising to 14.5. We continue the defensive revolution with the signing of wonderkid Christian Kivu. We felt pretty set, but delved into the free transfer market, picking up Kurt van der Paar as a midfield squad option, then between the sticks, Richard Wright. And with that, I didn't want to spend for the sake of it, so we upped a few contracts and locked a few players down for the long haul, and called it a day. And we started the season with the Charity Shield against Chelsea. Not a trophy we discussed in Season 1, but yeah, a trophy, we're in it, we want to win it. And things got off to a terrific start with Andrei Shevchenko opening his account for the season with a well-placed header inside 5 minutes. Annoyingly, the lead didn't last long as Ariel Ortega equalised for Chelsea, and then took the lead on the half-hour mark through Marcel Desailly. Harry Kewell came up with the goods in the second half, and it stayed that way until penalties. Penalties started great as Frank Leboeuf missed for Chelsea, but of course, perennial penalty misser Chris Sutton didn't disappoint and missed. Then sadly, to keep us in the tie, Ronaldinho lost his nerve and Chelsea win the Charity Shield. The league campaign started a little bit better, however. John Carew stepped up and bagged an opening day hat-trick in a 3-0 win against Wimbledon. And we continued our winning start with a 2-0 against Leicester, and then a 3-1 win against Middlesbrough. 3 wins from 3 to start the season. We then dropped 2 points against Derby, and our dismal Champions League efforts continued as Benfica scored in the 90th minute in a 1-0 win. We got back to winning ways with a 2-1 win against Leeds, then we welcomed Spurs to Ewood Park. A penalty had Spurs 1-0 up at the break, but a marvellous 10 minutes in the second half turned the tide in our favour. 2 goals in 3 minutes for John Carew, a first for the club for Miroslav Klose, and it was Ronaldinho who wrapped up the scoring, making it 4-1. After 6 games we find ourselves top, unbeaten and a point clear. Of course it's early days, but we're looking like we're in a solid position to retain our Premier League trophy. Oh, and John Carew was the top scorer with 7, so yeah, go on Big John. It was time to start stepping up in the Champions League, and we did just that. John Carew with a magnificent volley into the top corner inside 2 minutes. We were in complete control, running out 5-0 winners. Harry Kewell had a stormer, scoring a brace. We then made the game against Norwich hard work as Reynoso got a straight red card after 10 minutes, and Norwich dispatched the resulting penalty. You'd have been forgiven for thinking Norwich had 10 men with the holes we found in their defence as Shevchenko found Carew, who grabbed the equaliser. It was like watching Brazil as we passed the ball around with some beautiful one-touch passes, and our resident Brazilian, Ronaldinho, finished off the move. Kurt van der Paar got his first for the club with a deft lobbed volley, and we ran out 3-1 winners. We then left Highbury with all 3 points, a 2-0 win, and it was back to the Champions League and another 5-star performance against Shakhtar as we ran out 5-1 winners. Up next in the league was Liverpool, and it started horribly, with Michael Owen opening the scoring after 20 bloody seconds. Richard Wright, to be honest, should not have been beaten from there. Fortunately though, Andrei Shevchenko drew us level with a composed finish, but it was Michael Owen who scored again, making it 2-1. Christian Kivu nodded home with 5 minutes to go, rescuing a point. Nope, Jardel stole in and slotted home in injury time, sealing the victory for Liverpool. Despite that last-minute winner for Liverpool, we are still top of the league. Aston Villa slipped up away at Everton, we're still 1 point clear and have a superior goal difference, and the usual suspects, Liverpool, United and Arsenal, are way off the pace. Arsenal down in 15th. It did take penalties, but we managed to sneak past United in the Coca-Cola Cup 4th round, and then we got back on track in the league with a 2-0 win against Forest, and it was a chance at redemption against Inter Milan, getting revenge for the Europa League final defeat 2 years ago. And revenge looked unlikely as Nicola Ventila pulled it back for Ronaldo, who scored. It was then Ventila again who provided as he pulled it back for Hidetoshi Nakata, who made it 2. R9 was on fire and made it 3. No revenge on today's menu, but there was some pride available. John Carew pulled one back just a couple of minutes after Inter made it 3. R9 then missed a penalty and the chance of a hat-trick, and it was Shevchenko who got another one back in the late stages of the game. It was quite an exciting last few minutes, but ultimately it did end 3-2. And then after beating Sheffield Wednesday 4-0, we did actually drop some points. First against Chelsea as we salvaged a draw in the 90th minute. We then lost 1-0 to Marseille, continuing our indifferent Champions League form. And it was back-to-back league draws as we drew 1-1 with United. And after those draws, you'd think we may have relinquished top spot, but we haven't. We're actually a point further clear. Aston Villa's still breathing down our necks, along with United, but it's Liverpool who find themselves within touching distance of us. But for now, we're setting the pace, and they're struggling to keep up. We roared back into form with 4 wins on the spin, 3 in the league and a valuable one in the Champions League, setting us up to sneak qualification. We then succumbed to defeat in the Coca-Cola Cup quarter-final against West Ham on penalties, Shevchenko missing a penalty in normal time as well as in the shootout. We bounced back in the next game against West Ham with our squad literally queuing up to exact revenge as we raced into a 3-0 lead by 16 minutes. It was 4 by half-time as Shevchenko rounded off our scoring and the game ended 4-1. We continued free-flowing, high-scoring football against Aston Villa as we hit them for 6, a hat-trick for the big man, John Carew. However, defensively we were a little wayward as we conceded 3. But with the way the scoring went, the result felt very much a formality. Then against Arsenal, we fell behind early to a Nicolas Anelka goal. However, we showed our character and resolve with a quick-fire double from Andrei Shevchenko, finding himself in the right place at the right time for both goals. It didn't last long, sadly, as Jalminia equalised for Arsenal, sending them in level at the break. Then 4 minutes into the second half, Shevchenko got injured. Enter the big man, John Carew. He'll probably score 1 or 2. He's bigger than me and you. John Carew. And John Carew wasted no time and scored inside 2 minutes, putting us ahead. He then got his second, as the song goes, and our 4th. We ran out 4-2 winners. And after 20 games, we're absolutely flying. 9 points clear of United with a game in hand, 12 clear of Liverpool, and we're dominating all the charts. Carew and Shevchenko are a devastating strike partnership, finding themselves top of the average ratings and goalscorer charts, with Emre leading the way for assists. We progressed in the FA Cup with a 3-0 win against Wolves before falling to a disappointing 1-0 defeat to Norwich in the league. However, we got a much-needed 3 points in the Champions League, beating Rangers, meaning that qualification is secured. And it was more drop points in the league as we conceded a 90th minute equaliser against Nottingham Forest, before turning our attention back to the Champions League and an entertaining 3-3 with Barcelona. And with that result, we finished 15th in the league phase table. Not the best showing we could have had, but it's a marked improvement on last season, and now it's knockout football, where anything can happen. We beat Newcastle 3-1, returning to winning ways in the league, and we followed that up with a 2-0 win against Liverpool. We continued our march through the FA Cup with a fantastic performance against Norwich. Then it was time for the knockout stage of the Champions League. Welcome, Kaiserslautern. And we took the game to them, scoring twice in the opening 7 minutes, shutting the fans up behind the goal. Oh. Why is there no one there? Anyway, goals from Carew and Ronaldinho had us in a strong position. Nonda pulled one back for Kaiserslautern, but then Chris Sutton had the chance to score from the spot. Miraculously, he did, so in the 91st minute we scored a crucial goal. It didn't end there though, as Kaiserslautern snuck another back, leaving the tie beautifully poised. Before the second leg, we had Leicester in the league and we comfortably dispatched of them 5-2. And it was a nervy start against Kaiserslautern as we conceded a penalty, but Richard Wright decided it was his time to be the hero and pulled off a magnificent save. Then within 5 minutes, John Carew had scored twice. Kaiserslautern had no answer for the big 6'6" striker, who nodded both home at the near post from corners. The game then plateaued as it was killed off entirely by Ronaldinho, who lashed it home off the bar. 3-0, and on we move. Then we moved back to concentrating on the league, and we beat Wimbledon and Villa. After 27 games, we're 10 points clear. Admittedly, United have a game in hand, so could close that to 7, but we're far and away at the top, and it's 100% ours to lose at this point. We drew Arsenal in the FA Cup and went ahead through a Rio Ferdinand own goal, because yeah, that's a thing in this universe. Mark Overmars whipped in a beautiful cross for Anelka, who volleyed home. Then David Seaman flapped at a John Carew header as we took the lead, and Kurt van der Paar placed a beautiful effort into the bottom corner to make it 3. Arsenal chased the game, then Damien Duff found Andrei Shevchenko, who raced through to make it 4, and our march in the FA Cup continues. And it was our old friend Inter Milan in the Champions League again, in the round of 16, and finally we got some revenge, going ahead early through Andrei Shevchenko before Ronaldinho made it 2 after 20 minutes. Inter got one back in the second half, but Chris Sutton restored the 2-goal lead late on with a lovely finish. 3-1, and we're in a fantastic position to progress. Before the second leg, we had West Ham in the league and went behind after 22 minutes. It took us all of 3 minutes to equalise with a rifled effort from Andrei Shevchenko, and it remained level until the 70th minute when John Carew caught the defence dithering in the 6-yard box. A minute later, Shevchenko produced a goal of the month candidate with this left-footed volley. With a minute to go, John Carew scored his second and our fourth, but that wasn't the end of the scoring. With 2 apiece, could one of them get a hat-trick? Yes! Yes they could. John Carew headed home in the 91st minute. Not to be outdone by his strike partner, Andrei Shevchenko broke clear, beat the on-rushing keeper 6-1. And the second leg against Inter was a solid but dull performance. 1-0 and we're off to the quarter-finals. We moved on and beat Southampton 4-0, but then we lost 1-0 to Everton. And with that defeat, the lead is down to 7 points. And United still have that game in hand. 8 games left, the gap closing, but we've got this. Haven't we? Against United in the FA Cup, David Beckham scored a trademark free kick to open the scoring before John Carew bustled through a Wes Brown challenge to equalise just before half-time. We took the lead in the second half through Carew getting his second, but Paul Scholes popped up late on in the box to equalise. It wouldn't be a United game without some last-minute drama, however, but it was us this time, not United. John Carew denied a hat-trick with a great save, but Shevchenko gobbled up the rebound, 3-2, and on we move once again. But then United extracted revenge of sorts, beating us 1-0 in the following game, in the league, closing the gap. And now that has put the cat amongst the pigeons. That win for United means the gap is now 4 points, and they've still got that game in hand. There's no one else close. This is a 2-horse race, and the momentum is with United. Against Fiorentina in the Champions League quarter-final, we fell behind to Emmanuel Rui Costa goal. As is our way, however, fan favourite and cult hero John Carew managed to draw us level, and we went from strength to strength from there, running out 5-1 winners, Carew getting a hat-trick and putting one foot in the semi-finals. We then kept our noses ahead of United in the league, beating Sunderland 5-2, and Fiorentina must be sick of the sight of John Carew as he put us ahead after 18 seconds in the second leg. Fiorentina gave it a good go, scoring 3 on the night, but we scored 4, another hat-trick for John Carew, a 4-3 win, 9-4 on aggregate, and it's time for the Champions League semi-finals. Speaking of semi-finals, it was the FA Cup semi-final against Aston Villa. While it took a while, we eventually ran out 3-0 winners and secured our place in the FA Cup final. All of a sudden, a treble is a distinct possibility. Or is it, as we lost 2-0 to Sheffield Wednesday, but United were held by Wimbledon? That means after 33 games, we're level on points. No games in hand, our goal difference though is 9 better than United's, and it might just come down to that. We then bounced back against Chelsea with a 2-0 win before our Champions League semi-final, Real Madrid. And the fairy tale looked all but over in the first leg. Real Madrid absolutely outclassed us, a brace for Davor Suker and a goal for Fernando Morientes. John Carew did go on back, but it feels too little, too late at this point. We then beat Middlesbrough 3-1 between the Madrid games, but we ultimately did crash out of the Champions League, losing the second leg 1-0. And it looked like it was going from bad to worse as Spurs snatched a late equaliser, denting our title charge. And it's a double whammy as United won 9-1. Not only is their goal difference now 1 better than ours, they're 3 points clear. However, we do have a game in hand. It couldn't be closer. We beat Derby 3-1, setting up a final day showdown. We're level on points with United and have a better goal difference by 1 goal. We have Leeds at home and United are away at Liverpool. The fixture gods favour us, but it's never straightforward, is it? A case in point, we went behind, of course we bloody did. However, that only seemed to anger us and we proceeded to not only equalise, but score another 3 before half time. The pick of the bunch, this effort from Christian Kivu. We got a 5th in the second half and ran out 5-1 winners. Oh, and Liverpool beat United 3-0, so the league title is ours. But that's not everything for today. There's the FA Cup final against Liverpool. Torricelli headed them ahead early in a cagey final. Reynoso had the chance to pull it level from the spot, but his effort was saved. Michael Owen couldn't put the game beyond doubt as he blazed his penalty wide late on. But that's how it finished. 1-0 to Liverpool. The FA Cup eludes us once more. So we won the league on the final day, making it back-to-back league titles. John Carew won the Golden Boot. Go on, Johnny lad. And Andrei Shevchenko won Player of the Year. Go on, Shevchenko lad. However, more FA Cup heartbreak as we lost yet another final. It's incredibly disappointing. A Champions League semi-final is a great effort considering we finished bottom of the group last year. And then the board, they've only gone and given us £57 million to spend. Can we take that money and go a step further and win the Champions League? After back-to-back league wins, but FA Cup final heartbreak for the second time, I thought, why not take one of Liverpool's best players? Steven Gerrard, welcome to Blackburn Rovers. Yeah, I know it's a weird universe, but we're living in a world where Didier Drogba is out on loan, and John Carew is the current Golden Boot winner, so let's just go with it. He wasn't cheap though, £68 million, potentially rising to £75 million. But we need superstar signings to push on in the Champions League and FA Cup. And we had more money to spend and went to South America. But it wasn't Brazil, it was Argentina for a double swoop. It's youngster and wonderkid Javier Saviola, who, let me tell you, will be a great squad option and will give John Carew and Andrei Shevchenko a run for their money. And he only cost us £11.5 million. Up next, it was Juan Roman Riquelme, who, plays as a central attacking midfielder or winger, and we're pretty set there, but just look at him. £19 million? Worth every single penny. We saw Gianluigi Buffon had a £42 million release clause, and he might be the ticket to Champions League glory. We needed to sell to raise funds, so we are doing some transfer gymnastics to make it happen. We have the money coming in and we submitted a bid. He agreed to our contract before ultimately staying at Chelsea. Mark Bosnich, anyone? Actually, yeah, he's pretty phenomenal and much better than Richard Wright. A decent upgrade and only 26 million, so we've got a few million to spare. Enter powerful centre-back, Roque Jr. Now that's what I call a summer transfer window. Can we go and win it all? And the season began like a wet fart as we lost the Charity Shield 1-0 to Liverpool, and the £26 million Mark Bosnich should be doing better for me. However, we bounced back in the opening game of the league season, beating Sunderland 2-1 with 2 goals from Andrei Shevchenko. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows though, as new boy Riquelme missed a penalty. We're not starting this constant stream of penalty misses again, are we? This game was followed by another pants-squelching wet fart of a game as it was 0-0 ball draw against Arsenal before the excitement returned in a victory against Newcastle. Riquelme put the penalty miss behind him as he scored a free kick. Work that one out. Ronaldinho played a sublime assist which was matched by a great finish from Shevchenko. A couple of minutes later, it broke fortuitously for Carew, who rifled it in to the bottom corner. We then beat Ipswich 2-1 and Riquelme actually scored his penalty. The Champions League campaign started with a 5-star performance. John Carew found himself in the clear early on and produced a delicate left-footed finish. Feyenoord had equalised by the time Carew lashed home, making it 2-1. Then Shevchenko popped up with a lovely deft-dinked finish for 3. Carew completed his perfect hat-trick with our 4th, and Saviola got his first for the club to round things off. The only blemish was another penalty miss for Riquelme. And it was back-to-back penalty misses for Riquelme. This time, it cost us as we lost 1-0 at home to Leicester. We progressed in the Coca-Cola Cup 3rd round with a 6-0 win. Goals from John Carew, another one for John Carew. John Carew bagged one, and it was rounded off by John Carew. Riquelme had near post corners down to a T, and Big John rose the highest on 4 separate occasions. What an absolute beast. We carried the good form back into the league with a 3-0 win against Fulham, and then back to the Champions League with a fantastic 6-1 win against Kaiserslautern. Shevchenko got things rocking and rolling in the first minute. John Carew then scored a header from outside the box to make it 2. Shevchenko scored a beautiful volley for 3, and Carew then got his second header from slightly closer in this time, making it 4. We'd only played half an hour by this point. Mark Bosnich made me rue missing out on Buffon even more with some more subpar goalkeeping. That's £26 million in the hole. It was Shevchenko with a great bit of anticipation to head home from a poor clearance to complete his hat-trick before Steven Gerrard put the ball on a plate, or more like John Carew's head, so he could complete his hat-trick. 2 Champions League games, 2 wins. We're holding a better account of ourselves this season as we top the league phase after 2 games, and John Carew, with back-to-back hat-tricks, finds himself top of the scoring charts. We started October off brilliantly beating Chelsea 3-1, but things started to slip as we drew 1-1 with Borough, and then we were soundly beaten 4-2 by Dortmund in the Champions League. We got back on track as we snuck past Norwich 2-1, fortunately with them missing a penalty this time. Ronaldinho scored a brace as we bypassed Wolves in the Coca-Cola Cup before we beat Wimbledon 2-1. Steven Gerrard getting his first for the club, and what a goal it was, rifled into the top corner from outside the box. Very Steven Gerrard-esque, if that's a thing at this point in time. And it was last season's Champions League nemesis, Real Madrid, in the Champions League. We felt in complete control and deserved the opening goal when Riquelme scored. Before half-time, John Carew was played through and rounded the keeper, making it 2. Real Madrid had no answer in the second half. Shevchenko lashed home for 3, and that's how it finished. After the Madrid game, we had injuries to Riquelme and Duff. Fortunately, Duff had a bruised ankle and was only out for a couple of days, but Riquelme was out for 3 months with a torn thigh muscle. Then in the 1-0 win against West Ham, Harry Kewell picked up a twisted ankle and will be out for about a month. We then put on a show against Bradford, winning 5-0, and we continued that good form as we snuck a 1-0 win against Schalke in the Champions League, an 89th minute winner from Damien Duff. We then slipped up as we lost 3-1 to Everton. Then we faced United, and would you be surprised if I told you it was a draw? Of course you wouldn't. We almost exclusively draw with United. And yeah, it was 1-1. Villa were on the receiving end of our foul mood as we won 4-0. And this continued against Anderlecht as we demolished them 5-0 in their own backyard. But back in the Premier League, and it was Leeds, and they took the lead early on with a goal from Alan Smith. We weren't behind for long as Harry Kewell's poor cross was met by even poorer goalkeeping, and it was palmed to Shevchenko, who simply couldn't miss. Although he nearly did, we then found ourselves ahead. Steven Gerrard's effort was saved and it fell fortuitously for Shevchenko to tap it in for his second. Leeds were the masters of their own downfall, and it was more poor defending, this time John Carew the beneficiary, as he made it 3-1. Game over, we thought. However, Alan Smith had other ideas. Firstly, he managed to break clear, and despite nearly squandering the opportunity, he managed to lift it over the keeper to make it 3-2. It was then a beautifully taken goal for his hat-trick, and he'd single-handedly got Leeds back in it. And a winner was yet to come. In the 90th minute, elation fell in favour of the West Yorkshire side, as Leeds made it 4-3 and broke Blackburn hearts. Despite the defeat, Liverpool, United and Everton all lost, which meant the top 4 stayed as it was before the match. As it stands, we're top, but it's very tight, already with 3 defeats this season. We need to improve if we're going to keep hold of our league title. Coca-Cola Cup time, and it was Arsenal, which looked like a tough tie on paper, but in reality it was anything but. We got off to a flyer as Ronaldinho scored a penalty after 2 minutes, a fabulous defence-splitting pass at Javier Saviola on his way to make it 2. Patrick Vieira grabbed one back, but John Carew uncharacteristically let fly from outside the box, and poor goalkeeping restored our 2-goal lead. We continued in free-flowing scoring form and ended up running out 7-2 winners. We then beat Liverpool 2-1, a brace for Javier Saviola. We came from behind and scored quite late to seal the win. Saviola settling in and coming up with the goods. Up next was Spurs. After falling behind just before half-time, we came back into the game at the start of the second half as Shevchenko equalised. Saviola scored again, continuing his rich vein of form, giving us a 2-1 lead. Spurs hit back, making it 2-2, 13 minutes from time. 4 minutes later, Andrei Shevchenko had the chance to score from the spot, and he failed, spooning it wide. He did redeem himself, however, in the 94th minute. The ball broke to the penalty spot of all places, and this time, from open play, Andrei Shevchenko did not disappoint. 3-2, what a win. We made it 3 wins in a row when we beat Wimbledon 3-1, and we're at the halfway point, 19 games in, and we're 4 points clear of United at the top of the table. We look in a good position to get our 3rd league title in a row. And we followed that up against Derby, going ahead through a Ronaldinho goal. Played in beautifully by Saviola. Saviola himself then got on the score sheet as we made it 2, and we were all set for another 3 points. Back came Derby though, as Walter Gaitan scored in injury time of the first half. It was then Derby who had the momentum and found an equaliser, scoring a header that disappointingly Richard Wright should have saved, to be honest. Richard Wright then threw himself to the ground as Gaitan rounded him to get Derby's 3rd. The comeback was complete, and we threw this one away horribly. And with indifferent league form, the Coca-Cola Cup was a welcome distraction until Michael Owen put Liverpool ahead. Anything you can do, Carew can do better, and we hit back almost immediately. However, the second half belonged to Michael Owen, firstly restoring Liverpool's lead from the spot before completing his hat-trick in the 80th minute. John Carew did manage to get another goal, making it 3-2 in injury time, which could be incredibly valuable going into the second leg. But before that, we had the small match of the FA Cup 3rd round, where we dispatched of Crystal Palace 3-0. And the second leg against Liverpool got off to a slow start. The only highlight was a penalty for Reynoso, who missed it, so it was 0-0 at half-time. It was Michael Owen once again opening the scoring, but it was John Carew once again who hit back. Shevchenko then popped up, giving us the lead on the night and levelling the tie. It felt very much like next goal wins. In the 84th minute, Liverpool scored through Dawson O'Hora, but their lead lasted less than 60 seconds. John Carew put us back ahead / equalised, however you want to look at it. Extra time loomed, and with extra time underway, we searched for a winner, but sadly fell short. O'Hora got his second, making it 3-3 on the night, 6-5 on aggregate. A bitter pill to swallow here. We then took our frustrations out on Middlesbrough as we won 4-1, then Atletico Madrid in the Champions League as we won 5-1. The frustration continued as we dropped points against Chelsea in a 2-2 draw, with goals coming from Alan Shearer. We finished off the league phase in the Champions League with a 2-1 win against Inter Milan, meaning we actually finished in 5th, only losing one game to Dortmund. I think we're starting to find our feet in Europe. But back to the league, our indifferent form continued by dropping more points, being humbled 3-1 by Norwich. And with that, all of a sudden, the table has a very different look. We're now 4 points behind United, behind Liverpool on goal difference, and Newcastle are dangerously close to us. And in our current form, I can see us falling even further away. Retaining our league title doesn't look so promising at this point. Things got no better in the FA Cup as we drew 0-0 with Liverpool and then lost the replay 3-0. That's another season without the FA Cup, that's another cup defeat to Liverpool. Bloody hell. We dug deep and Derby were the recipients of our anger as we won 7-0, then beat Arsenal 3-1. And with that we find ourselves back within a point of United as they lost 3-1 to Newcastle. Liverpool have fallen away again, it's starting to look like a two-horse race. The round of 16 was upon us and we drew Dortmund, the team who beat us in the league phase, but Andrei Shevchenko scored 2 late goals, giving us a 2-0 victory in the away leg. And we followed this up with a defeat to Tottenham in the league. With United, Newcastle and Liverpool winning, it's yet another setback we simply didn't need. In the second leg against Dortmund, they brought the game to us, scoring after just 4 minutes to halve the deficit. By 20 minutes, they were 2-0 up on the night and level in the tie. John Carew showed a great change of pace and slotted in Andrei Shevchenko, who put us back in the lead. Mark Bosnich, well, I have no words for that. What was he doing? 3-1 to Dortmund and the tie was poised once more. With about 10 minutes to go, Riquelme whips in a devilish free kick, Shevchenko nodded home and we scraped through. 4-3, but hardly the most convincing of performance. We then lost to Liverpool for the 3rd time this season, 3-1, making it 3 defeats on the bounce, but then we bounced back as we beat Sunderland 3-1 and Aston Villa 3-0. And as we beat Villa, Liverpool beat United, turning this 2-horse race into a 3-horse race once more. We're 3rd with a game in hand, 3 points behind Liverpool, 4 points behind United. Sadly, United's goal difference is far and away superior, so we're going to have to dig deep if we hope to retain the title. After scraping past Dortmund, it was our old friends in the Champions League quarter-final, Manchester United. And it was Andrei Shevchenko with an early goal, giving us the lead with a magnificent left-footed finish. He got his and our second late on, tapping home from a Javier Saviola cross, rounding off a reasonably comfortable 2-0 win. And it was another 3 goals as we beat Everton 3-0 before the second leg of the Champions League against United, which took the lead through a Javier Saviola tap-in from Andrei Shevchenko pullback this time. As the second half began, Shevchenko got on the score sheet himself and it was 4-0 on aggregate. Less than a minute later, it was Roy Keane with a captain's goal for Manchester United. Game on! Brian Laudrup then popped up with United's second before Gary Neville on the overlap, made it 3-2. All of a sudden, the tie is poised and at 4-3, a nervy final 20 minutes approached. However, Roque Jr. headed home from a Riquelme free kick, making it 3-3 on the night and 5-3 in the tie, sending us through to the semi-final. After progressing to our second consecutive Champions League semi-final, we beat Bradford 5-1 in the league, which left us second behind Liverpool with a superior goal difference and a game in hand. And that game in hand was against Leeds, and it was more 90th minute drama, and once again it went against us as we drew 1-1, meaning we failed to go top, and to add insult to injury, United won 4-3 against Leicester and leapfrogged us to go back into second. Then we benefited from a last minute goal as Shevchenko coming up clutch in the 92nd minute as he equalised for us against West Ham. Leeds fortunately held United and Villa beat Liverpool, meaning we actually closed the gap on Liverpool. 1 point separates the top 3. It's incredibly close. And the semi-final of the Champions League got off to a rocky start. Patrick Kluivert heading home for Barcelona, giving them a 1-0 lead at the break. In a cagey game, Michael Ballack came up with the equaliser 10 minutes from time, leaving the tie finally poised. and we had a full week to rest and prepare for the second leg in the Camp Nou, and it was John Carew, Camp Nou, John Carew, 1-0. However, it was cancelled out by Patrick Kluivert just a few short minutes later. Rivaldo then played a mesmerising ball through for Luis Figo, who gave Barcelona the lead in the second half. But the lead lasted 5 minutes as Ronaldinho played through Juan Román Riquelme, who levelled things back up. As extra time loomed, we took the lead, Roque Jr. with a goal on 88 minutes. Barcelona then chased the equaliser, but John Carew sealed the win, smashing it into the top corner, and we're off to the final. And the highs of the Champions League were extinguished as we drew 1-1 with Newcastle. After 34 games, we're third still, 5 points behind United and 9 points behind Liverpool. We have 2 games in hand in each of them, and it's United next. And we beat United 1-0 with a great touching goal from Jorge Martinez. Martinez. As the end of season approached, we couldn't afford to slip up, and slip up we did not against Fulham. Riquelme scored 2 along with goals from Shevchenko, Kuhl and Ronaldinho in a 5-0 win. And the league table didn't look great. I mean, there's an outside chance on goal difference, but we've probably lost this one. The game in hand against Ipswich started brilliantly as Shevchenko scored inside 2 minutes. An unlucky deflection caused an own goal for Hofland, but we managed to sneak the win with a penalty from Reynoso. And the final game of the season pitted us against 18th place Leicester, who had to win to survive. Liverpool had Fulham, who were 17th and could still go down, so the title/relegation places are all on show in the final game of the season. And we went behind in the first half, and it looked like we were completely bottling our outside chance of the title. However, Javier Saviola equalised in the second half, but we didn't have enough to do our part. The title goes to Liverpool. Liverpool beat Fulham anyway, so it didn't matter. But there's still a small matter of the Champions League final to contend with against Juventus. And we got off to a flyer with the goal from legend John Carew. Zeriberto equalised for Juventus on 12 minutes, and that's how it stayed until the second half. Riquelme popped up, restoring our lead, and it looked all set for us to become Champions League winners. Until the 94th minute, and Mark Giuliano equalised, forcing extra time. Then Gianluca Zambrotta gave Juventus the lead in extra time with a scrappy tap-in, and heartbreak looked on the cards. Substitute Chris Sutton then scored the equaliser from a yard out as Michael Ballack bustled through to make it 3-3, and it was anyone's game once more. The scoring wasn't done there though, as Ronaldinho curled in a beautiful effort to make it 4-3, worthy of winning any Champions League final. Damien Duff then fired into the bottom corner to grab our 5th and secured the win and put an end to a dramatic Champions League final. We've done it, we've won the Champions League. And at the end of Season 4 and that Champions League win, we've nearly done it all. However, we still haven't won the FA Cup, and losing our league title gives our end of season roundup a somewhat disappointing overview. With lots of money to spend, we're going to throw the kitchen sink at Season 5, we're going to reclaim our Premier League trophy, we're going to retain our Champions League, we're going to we're going to win the FA Cup, the final season, the final chapter. It's the final chapter of our Blackburn Rovers story, and with £60 million to spend, but a large squad, it's time to sell as well as use instalments in a bid to win it all in the final season. I bought in Hugo Ibarra for £15 million as a right-back squad option, as Revlier was unhappy, and we offered him for about 25 million, as well as Mark Van Bommel for another 25, Chris Sutton, Richard Wright, David Unsworth, and a few others left, which netted us over £100 million. So we went after Joe Cole again, as his release clause was 55 million. This time, we were a more attractive prospect than West Ham, Premier League winners and current European champions. Joe Cole finally signed. Then a marquee signing was needed, spending £100 million up front, plus some instalments. We broke the bank for Fabio Cannavaro. £143 million spent on a world-class centre-back. Our final signing was a freebie as we snaffled Diego Simeone from long-time rivals Inter Milan. These signings made a statement and was the step we needed to go and win it all. In other transfer news, Darren Huckabee went to Real Madrid. And the season began with the European Super Cup against Fiorentina. In a dull affair, we lost 1-0 to a Gabriel Batistuta goal. And it didn't get any easier. Starting off the season against United, Saviola put us 1-0 ahead late on, but with literally the last kick of the game, Dwight Yorke equalised. A draw at Old Trafford? We'll take that. Saviola continued his scoring start, bagging a hat-trick in a 6-0 win against Norwich. £143 million man Fabio Cannavaro also got his first goal for the club. A draw away at Old Trafford was a decent result, then dismantling Norwich like this? We're here to take our title back. We followed this win up with another 6-0, this time against Derby, Saviola scoring another 2 goals, but not to be continuously outdone, John Carew, he actually bagged a hat-trick. A phenomenal start, and up next, a trip to Anfield. But as it stands, we're second on goal difference, only Aston Villa lead the way with a perfect record so far. Saviola is top of the scorers chart. Can he stay there? At Anfield, our other new boy got his first goal for us. Joe Cole rescued a point against Liverpool. A strong start despite drawing twice in 4 games. The Champions League got underway and Javier Saviola decided he was making a real play for the Golden Boot this season as he scored another hat-trick in a 3-1 win. We succumbed to our first league defeat against Chelsea in an 8-goal thriller, losing 5-3. We then snuck past Fulham in the Coca-Cola Cup on penalties before dropping points against Sheffield Wednesday in a 1-1 draw. And with us winless in 3 games in the league, we've actually slipped to mid-table, 11th. This is disappointing and gives us a mountain to climb in order to reclaim our title. It was back to the Champions League, which was a welcome distraction. In a repeat of last year's Champions League final, we travelled to Turin to face Juventus, starting strongly with an early goal from Saviola, and Shevchenko made it 2 before the half-hour mark. Cannavaro bagged his first own goal of the season before Riquelme secured the win from the spot. Mark Bosnich was in no man's land as Zambrotta made injury time a little nervy, but we won 3-2. The Champions League retention has started well. But what hasn't started well is reclaiming our Premier League trophy. We went behind against Villa with Mark Bosnich again all over the place. We fought back and Saviola rescued us again as we won 3-2, bagging a brace. It was a tight 1-0 win against Middlesbrough as we started to recover in the league. That recovery has us in 6th, United and Arsenal setting the pace, unbeaten and 7 points clear of us. We then dismantled Valencia 5-0 in the Champions League. Joe Cole is really finding his feet, both feet in fact, as he popped up with 2 excellently taken finishes. The first was a fortuitous bobble that he lashed home, the second was a well-controlled left-footed volley into the bottom corner. Back in the league and it was West Ham and we were limping towards a 1-0 win thanks to a Saviola goal. But West Ham scored an equaliser in the 92nd minute, and just look at it. I don't even know who to blame. The defence, the keeper, the gods, either way it caused us to falter once more. We beat Coventry in the Coca-Cola Cup before getting back on track once again in the league with a scintillating display against Fulham as we ran out 5-0 winners. We left it late to open the floodgates, but with 5 different scorers, I'm hoping we can start to accumulate points and climb up the table. It was back-to-back 5-0 wins as well as we beat Admiral Wacker Modelling, the highlight being Javier Saviola's 3rd hat-trick already this season. And we continued our pattern of absolutely hammering teams or squeezing past them unconvincingly as we beat Sunderland 1-0, then Charlton 2-0. As we beat Charlton, the league pace-setters United and Arsenal faced off and it was United who won 4-0. We found ourselves in 5th, so we're slowly but surely climbing the table, but we're actually slipping further away from United as we're 9 points off the pace. Javier Saviola, God that was tenuous, Javier Saviola was our saviour once again as we beat PSV 1-0, and it was Mark Bosnich who was also the saviour, saving a penalty, if you can believe that. After 5 games it was 5 wins and we were making a real statement in our pursuit of retaining our Champions League trophy. Back to the league and we found our shooting boots once more, a 5-0 win against Southampton, all the goals in the first half. Javier Saviola back once again with a 1-0 win against Everton, then a brilliant 4-1 win against Spurs, the result never really in doubt. And it was a classic against Bayern Munich in the Champions League, going ahead from an Andrei Shevchenko penalty. The lead however did not last long as Oliver Bierhoff equalised, but then it was Shevchenko again before half-time restoring our lead with a lovely touch and finish. However the second half began and it was Oliver Bierhoff once more, this time with a bullet header making it 2-2. We then went ahead for the 3rd time in the game as Saviola volleyed home Ibarra's cross. Then 2 goals in 2 minutes from Bayern had them go into the lead for the first time in the match, and it was our turn to try and respond. And respond we did, as Shevchenko completed his hat-trick and rounded off a magnificent 4-4 draw. Back to the Premier League, and it was a much calmer affair as we scored 2 goals in 2 minutes and we beat Wimbledon 2-0. And with that win against Wimbledon, it was 7 wins in a row, and in the league we've climbed to 3rd. United and Arsenal were both held to draws, which helped us close the gap as well. It's still a 7-point lead for United, but surely they'll have a dip in form at some point. It's up to us to stay consistent, stay winning, and capitalise when that happens. Coca-Cola Cup quarter-final time, it was our good friends and league leaders, Manchester United. It took till the 71st minute for the deadlock to be broken as Javier Saviola dispatched Harry Kewell's cross. The lead lasted 4 minutes as Paul Scholes equalised, and we understood why United were unbeaten and runaway leaders in the league, as they just seemed to find a way, Ryan Giggs putting them ahead in the 88th minute, and it looked all but over. However, Emre scored a magnificent free kick with the last kick of the game, and penalties awaited. Mark Bosnich became the hero as he saved from Dwight York, then Paul Scholes hit the post, and we secured passage through to the semi-finals. Then things started shambolically against Newcastle as they found themselves with a 2-goal lead after 27 minutes. Enter the club legends, Andrei Shevchenko pulling one back before half-time, then John Carew with a brace in the second half. He did score 1 or 2, and he is bigger than me and you. He's John Carew. We followed that up with a 2-0 win against Leeds, and then it was a huge game against Arsenal. And it was important to start strong, and that's exactly what we did. John Carew scoring after just 34 seconds. Arsenal were rocked, and we capitalised as Shevchenko doubled our lead inside 3 minutes. Ewood Park was rocking, and Arsenal fell apart, conceding a third after just 8 minutes. Anelka broke through and rounded Mark Bosnich to pull one back, but John Carew restored the 3-goal lead and completed his hat-trick before the half-hour mark. Anelka pulled another back for Arsenal in the second half with a well-taken finish, but it mattered for nothing as the final score was 4-2. We then came from behind and won 3-1 against West Ham to close out the year. Our form has been fantastic and we've moved into second. United though are still running away with it, but it's Arsenal who've had their blip and we find ourselves 6 points clear of them at this point. United are still unbeaten, but we've thrown away bigger leads ourselves, so we've got to believe. And we started the new year terribly with a 2-1 defeat to Middlesbrough. We then beat Villa in the Carabao Cup semi-final first leg 2-1, however we did miss a penalty. Let's hope we don't look back on that as a turning point in the tie. We eased past Stockport in the FA Cup third round before we were made to rue our missed penalties once more. This time it was Michael Ballack and Christian Kivu in the shootout against Villa, falling short of the final in the Coca-Cola Cup. John Carew then left it late to grab a brace to secure a victory against Kaiserslautern before we got our revenge in Aston Villa, beating them 4-1 in the league. A couple of late goals sealed it after once again we came from behind. A pretty miserable January looked as if it was going from bad to worse as Fulham raced into a 2-0 lead in the first half. John Carew managed to prod home from a rebound to half the deficit, however Fulham restored their 2-goal lead within 5 minutes. John Carew then lashed one home into the top corner from outside the box and he deserved to go and celebrate that, but instead he went to retrieve the ball and get the game back underway. But it was a wise decision as John Carew managed to pop up and score his hat-trick, equalising, setting up the usual last-minute drama. And as ever, we did not disappoint. There was a goal in the 90th minute, but for who, Chris Kamara? It was Fulham. Fulham won 4-3. And with that defeat, we sit in second still, 8 points behind United and 1 clear of Chelsea in third. Where have Chelsea come from? We keep failing to capitalise on the rare occasions United do slip up. We served up a feast against Servette as we won 8-1, a hat-trick for Carew, a brace for Shevchenko, and we rounded off the Champions League phase, finishing second, behind Lazio who had a perfect record. Maybe we'll see you in the final. We continued to perform against Arsenal, once again starting quickly as Saviola gave us the lead inside 2 minutes. Arsenal held firm, or at least firmer than the last game, as it took until 26 minutes to make it 2-0, as Joe Cole made a late run to score a header. It was then a wonderful passing move as Saviola made it 3 and the game was dead and buried. We weren't one better than the 4-2 win earlier in the season, as we won 5-2. We then scored 5 again, this time against Cambridge, as we progressed in the FA Cup. But then we dropped points against Norwich, drawing 1-1. The gap to United remains at 8 points with 13 games left. We desperately needed to gain ground and fast, and we were presented with the perfect opportunity as United came to Ewood Park. And it was a cagey affair, but Shevchenko managed to pop up with not 1 but 2 in the second half. It was a nervy end to the game as Cannavaro deflected a cross and it looped up over Bosnich, but we held on for the win. And it was hat-trick number 4 for Saviola as we brushed aside Leeds 5-2 in their own backyard. Following these 2 wins, we find ourselves just 2 points behind United. Admittedly, they do have a game in hand, but it's the closest we've been to them all season. Is momentum with us? Will United falter? And it was Saviola once more keeping our FA Cup dreams alive as he scored in the 88th minute against Derby. We came from behind as well in a close game, but it's moments like this that make you think it could be our year. Saviola on the score sheet again with a lovely take and finish as we ventured to Fiorentina for the Champions League, looking for revenge from the defeat in the Super Cup. And we got it with a 2-1 win away from home, giving us a great chance to progress. Against Newcastle, we rescued a point late on, and of course it was man of the moment, Javier Saviola. We then completely f***ed our Champions League prospects as we lost 2-0 at home. We're out. And against Wimbledon, we scored 2 in the space of a minute inside the first 8 minutes to race into a 2-goal lead. We looked sure to take out a Champions League angle on someone. However, a demolition never arrived, and it was the next goal actually scored by John Hartson just after half-time. Wimbledon then went down to 10 men, but actually found themselves with a penalty, which Hartson duly dispatched. It felt like an absolute shit show of a week, to be honest. The only thing worse could have been a win for Wimbledon. Thankfully, John Carew saved us from the depths of despair in the 90th minute as we snuck it 3-2. Unconvincing and hardly inspiring confidence, but we won. The confidence started to come back though as Carew bagged a hat-trick in a 4-2 win against Spurs, and this leaves us in third, 1 point behind Chelsea, and level on points with United, who have a game in hand. It's a 3-horse race. United have been pulled back in by ourselves and Chelsea, and it's literally anyone's. But let's put the Premier League to one side for a minute, as it's time for Aston Villa in the FA Cup. The beat us in the Coca-Cola Cup, and it's time to exact some revenge, and revenge looked on the cards as Javier Saviola scored not once but twice in the opening 20 minutes, putting us in a comfortable position at half-time. However, when Francesco Sonetti pulled one back for Villa in the second half, we had deja vu flashbacks of the Wimbledon game. And rightly so, as Sonetti scored his second, levelling things up. Cue the 90th minute heroics. Oh no. Oh no. Sonetti got his hat-trick, and it's Aston Villa who progress in the semi-final. We're at the FA Cup. The only thing that could remotely save our season is winning the league, so we needed to go on a good run, which appears no one told players as Southampton scored after 46 seconds in the following game. An equaliser in the second half from Riquelme calmed some nerves, and cometh the hour, cometh the man once again, John Carew in the 80th minute, securing the win 2-1. We started to look in some decent form as we beat Everton 5-1, Sunderland 2-0, and then we scraped past Charlton 2-1 with a late goal from, you guessed it, Javier Saviola. It's touch and go in the league, but we have points on the board though, as we're 3 points clear of United. They do have a game in hand, and our goal difference is identical. So it's shaping up to be a very cagey final few games. Chelsea also have a game in hand, but they're a point further back. Aston Villa are slightly adrift, and Arsenal feel like they've been fully cast out to sea. Not sure what's happened to them, but it hasn't been good. And at home to Liverpool, who are mid-table by the way, we dropped points in a 1-1 draw. Chelsea lost, so it's now 5 points clear of them with a game in hand, but United didn't play, so now they have 2 games in hand and only trail us by 4 points. Oh. Against Derby, we did what we had to, although not without half-time bollocking. It took 71 seconds of the second half for John Carew to put us ahead. Andrei Shevchenko made it 2, before Carew rounded things off with a trademark header, making it 3. But that wasn't the whole story. Oh no. United had Liverpool, and Liverpool did us a favour by beating United, meaning United have 2 games in hand, but trail by 7 points. The title is back in our hands. And not only that, one of their games in hand is midweek against Chelsea. United battered them 4-0. We have Chelsea on the final day ourselves, so this game against Sheffield Wednesday is all the more important. If United fail to beat Norwich, and we win, we're champions. And we set off to do our bit in style. Hoflund got us going after 10 minutes. Ronaldinho then put it on a plate for Harry Kewell 2 minutes later. By 20 minutes it was 3. Ronaldinho again turning provider, this time for Shevchenko. Saviola whipped in a corner that Shevchenko nodded home for 4. Then Saviola got himself on the score sheet, making it 5 by half time. Ronaldinho got his goal 90 seconds into the second half, and it was Saviola who bagged another 2, completing his hat-trick in a magnificent 8-0 win. And Norwich did it! They beat United 2-1 at Old Trafford, meaning that Blackburn Rovers are once again Premier League champions, for the 3rd time in 5 years at the club. We rounded off the season with a 2-2 against Chelsea, Saviola with another brace, leaving him as our top scorer for the season. A 3rd Premier League title, but an underwhelming final season. A poor showing in our pursuit to retain the Champions League, but at least we did win it once. Not like the elusive FA Cup. And that's it, the end. Overall, decent success at Blackburn Rovers. We left them with a plethora of world-class talents that will probably take them on to dizzy heights for many years to come. Until the next story, I bid you adieu.